Well, good morning, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee with Hales. Here we think critically and live intentionally. If you're listening on Spotify, Amazon, Podbean, or Apple, I did do a video today. You can hop on over to YouTube. I'm also on Odyssey, so if you'd like to watch my videos there, I'm on that platform as well. So today we are going to be talking about the hot topic of the Epstein files. So I'm not going to be sharing information from the Epstein files, but I've been very disheartened and frustrated with the way the information is being presented to the public. When the media has some sort of sensational or really large story, usually when it is reported from certain news outlets and mainstream media, it's usually given in the framework of us versus them, right and left. And the media does a really good job with this with any social issues or large political issues in our country, whether it is the Epstein files or it's the ICE raids or it's Black Lives Matter. Usually they present it in a way that you have to pick a camp. You're either right or you're either left. And it's really frustrating to me because I think the way that information is presented, it leaves us often fighting with each other and it doesn't leave us frustrated with the elites and with the government. And that's intentional. So it's propaganda, it's the way it's written, it's the way it's presented. Even when you listen to the Senate hearing committees or with the committees like with Pam Bondi the other day, honestly, a lot of that I think is just theater and acting, but on top of it, it's presented in a way that's supposed to make you really frustrated towards the right or really frustrated towards the left. It's polarizing. And they keep us arguing with each other. They keep us fighting with each other over certain information instead of actually looking at the big picture and say, why is this happening? Where did this come from? And what is this for? We need to make sure we're looking at it really unbiasedly and not allowing the elites to use this information to their advantage to get us to plant our feet in a certain camp, and don't allow us to be manipulated or be able to have it be used as propaganda to get us to follow a certain person or believe a certain narrative that's again going to be an advantage to them and just create more animosity among the average American people. So with that being said, I wanted to share different resources that I use in regards to news or media and people who I don't think have an agenda to make it sensational and don't have an agenda to necessarily go viral. Their agenda is just to give you the information and shed light onto the corruption that's happening on all different levels for all different reasons. So the first resource I would recommend going to if you want to learn more about the Epstein files would be Whitney Webb. She literally wrote the book on it. She's been researching Epstein for a long time. She has I think it's a platform, might be a podcast called Unlimited Hangout. If you want to go ahead and listen to her work and information, I will link all of this information below too, so you can take a listen to what she has to say in regards to Epstein. She wrote a book, Nation Under Blackmail. It was published, I think, in 2022. So she's been doing this research for a long time. Pretty much, I would say, an expert on this topic. So it'd be interesting to hear what she has to say about these new documents that are released. The second person I'll point you to is someone who I've pointed you to many times and used his information, James Corbett, CorbettReport.com. I have a video of him linked below where he shares new information that he has learned in regards to the Epstein files. And that was interesting to me because he's been following it for a long time, so he's kind of sharing some new tidbits. One part was very interesting to me, and I'm just going to put an insert in here just because I thought this was super weird that this was even in the emails.
Of babies and animals. Again, a creepy subject, which you can start exploring by looking, for example, at the Brian Bishop communications with Epstein. There's many, many things that they had about genetic engineering, designer babies, new genetic editing desk, references for embryo editing, etc., etc. They had an extensive correspondence about this, and you can find out more about that from some of the reporting that's happened about this. Epstein linked to designer baby empire in latest files that reveal bid to engineer superhumans and clones. Talking about this correspondence with Brian Bishop, a Bitcoin developer, who in 2018 was seeking financial backing for a venture aimed at genetically enhancing offspring and ultimately replicating humans. So there was some weird baby cloning, whatever was going on. Who knows exactly what was happening there, but I'll just put this in there. Go to JMail and search for hoofs, that word, and you'll find an email from Jeffrey Epstein to a Kathleen Rumler saying, "We talked about designing a pig with different non-cloven hoofs in order to make kosher bacon," etc. Again, all sorts of really, really bizarre and potentially occultic stuff going on in these emails. That's just one more window on that.
In this video, he also does an interview with a gentleman named Nick Bryant, who was the original reporter to release the information about Epstein. I think it was back in like 2013. He released his little black book.
If you want some more of the strangeness in these files, you could turn to Nick Bryant. Nick Bryant has an interesting post up, the Epstein emails from the very strange to the very, very evil, in which he talks about some of these things. And just right off the top, he talks about one of the released emails here is a group email from Redacted to a group list, subject journalist calling around from 2011. Just a heads up, there is a journalist calling around again. His name is Nick Bryant. This is what he looks like, so you are all aware. So literally an APB, an all points bulletin being put out by the Epstein crew to be on the lookout for Nick Bryant back in 2011, because as my listeners will know, Nick Bryant was one of the OG researchers on this way before the Miami Journal or whatever, or any of those reporters had even heard of this case. Bryant was on it. He was the one who released the black book and the flight logs in the first place, et cetera, et cetera. So he's been doing yeoman's work on this subject and the Franklin scandal before it and other work along these lines for decades now.
He also talks about how Epstein was interested in cloning and transhumanism, just some really weird things. But he started an organization called EpsteinJustice.com. He's been working with a lot of the victims. I appreciate him because he doesn't over sensationalize it. He's just factual and reporting. So you can definitely check him out. He's linked below. Again, Nick Bryant and EpsteinJustice.com. And going back to Corbett, he gives some really good resources if you'd like to look into the Epstein documents. Corbett did give some websites to go to that have organized this information in a more respectable manner, which you would think our government is capable of doing this too, but of course they just gave us random PDFs. You don't even know what you're looking at. So one of the websites is called JMail. If you want to go there, this is a really cool one. It's just basically Google, like a Google email account that's all of Jeffrey Epstein's emails. So you can search names in there, you can search dates, whatever. It's really interesting. You also can use, I think it's like the Google Docs and Google Pics, like all that information is in there too if you wanted to go ahead and just peruse it and see what's in there. So this is a really cool layout, I think, and really accessible and understandable layout for people who would like to learn more and research it a little bit more. There is another website called EpsteinSecrets.com. This is also organized in an interesting way too. I don't think it's quite as user-friendly, but you can search things really easily on there as well. Now, you do have to remember too, which Corbett touches on as well, I don't know who is doing this stuff, so I don't know if all the information is getting moved over or is it just some of the information is. So if you search something on the DOJ website and a word and then you search something in the JMail, they don't always come up. But I don't know if these things are also still getting uploaded or preloaded or whatever. These are some resources that you could use too that make it a little more user-friendly. The last resource actually comes from my husband. He's been listening to Jason Bermas. It's called Making Sense of the Madness. He broke down a few of the Epstein files in a few different ways, and my husband said it's really easy to listen to someone who maybe isn't familiar with the Epstein information. This might be a good place for you to start, just to get some basic information in and kind of go through the Epstein documents. So I hope this was helpful. It gives you some resources if you are trying to figure out who should I listen to, and then also, again, not pushing so much the right-left narrative, just giving you the information and letting you think for yourself and using your critical thinking skills of what conclusion you're going to come to in regards to this information. And I would recommend to roll up your sleeves and do your own research. If you hear something that doesn't sound right or seems weird, dig into the files yourself. There's accessible websites that you can dig into and do your own research on your own time. But again, friends, let's not fall for the propaganda. Let's remember, let's think critically and live intentionally. Let's not allow this information to be used to divide us. Let's not allow this information to be used to cause dissension among us. Let's allow this information to be used to unify us, to not be presented in a way that it's right versus left, that it's Trump versus the Dems. Remember, the government didn't want this information out. This was buried.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
They hoped it was buried. It took a lot of effort to get this out, even though things might seem really overwhelming. The first step is gaining knowledge so we can be educated and gain a true understanding of the reality of the world that we're living in, which is a really sad reality when all is said and done, if you really think about what the implications are of something like this. So just be encouraged in the fact that we can be unified together. I just want to make sure we're not going to allow this information to be used to the global elite's advantage to get us fighting with each other. They don't want us to actually realize who the true problem is and that this is not okay. It's a sad topic, it's a dark topic, but I do think it's important for us to be as educated as we can be so we can educate one another and, again, not allow this information to create polarization and make us plant certain flags in certain camps. This information should allow us to unify together and to work together as American citizens, that we are not going to tolerate this type of behavior anymore. Well, thanks for watching, friends. I hope this gives you some good information, and I hope you all have great days, and I'll be talking to you soon.